Wow. In opening statement, I told you that we would give you the dots and we would help you connect them. Every single fact we mentioned in opening statement, we proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Every single fact we committed to, we proved to you beyond a reasonable doubt, because that's what opening statements are for. To give you the evidence you're about to see. And then you heard from Mr. Chen's attorney, who committed to a very specific story. Remember, we didn't just talk about that story, right? We've backed off that story because, that story doesn't work anymore. And we're going to talk about that story. This entire trial has been muddy the waters. It has been muddy the waters to confuse the jury. The opening statement from the defense was meant to confuse you. It was meant to have you thinking about other things, possible defenses, that the state disproved. Not only did you not hear evidence of what they said in their opening statement, the state outright disproved it. That's why you don't hear it today. That's why we're not going to go back over the defendant's story. And you had asked about transcripts of opening statements. Let's talk about what we committed to in opening statement as Jason Chen's attorneys. They met on Tinder, wrong? You have text messages. They met on Bumble. Simple thing, but we're just starting with the untruths that the state disproved. They traveled to Chicago together that summer, wrong? End of October. You have text messages that show that he asked her to go to Chicago. You heard that you will see messages where you will see that one of them likes one of them more than the other. Oh, that Jasmine liked him more than he liked her. Wrong. You never saw proof of it. In fact, you have all the messages that they didn't want to show you. They wanted to put them in evidence and then just hope that maybe you'll waste your time reading them. So what did I do? I put them on the screen for you. That weekend before he killed her, he asked her to come over. Oh, she likes him more? No. If you want to waste your time reading the messages, read them. You'll find out that that was not true. What they committed to an opening statement was not true. They drank wine, smoked pot, smoked wax. We didn't hear that just now, did we? Why? Because it's not true. They committed to a story to throw mud at the wall, and it was never true. It was meant to confuse you. And then also, how offensive. The victim drank wine, so he murdered her. The defendant was smoking wax. No proof of it. Zero proof of it. Didn't happen. But let's say that it did. The defendant smoked wax, marijuana, so he murdered her. That is no defense. But it's certainly not a defense when you say it and you never prove it. You committed to this in your opening statement. And by the end of trial, when the jury's no longer confused, you don't want to talk about it anymore. In order to open one of the bottles of wine in the bedroom, Jason had to go to the kitchen and get a kitchen knife to take off that plastic wrapper that goes around the top of the wine bottles. We've seen that knife. Well, we've seen part of it. We'll never know where the other part of it is. We've seen part of it, right? So he was able to get it off the top of the wine bottle. They finish off the bottle. She goes into the kitchen to get another one, and she sees those Tinder messages. The Tinder messages are significant, mostly because that was their adequate provocation. The only adequate provocation you ever heard in this trial was an opening statement, which is not evidence. And then what was the state able to do? Through an expert, who nobody can deny that Mark Hamilton is an expert. He put those Tinder records on the screen and he explained them to you. They are records that cannot be toyed with. They are records that T-Mobile holds regardless of whether you delete things. Those are his Tinder records. And not only did he not have Tinder notifications from that morning, he didn't even have Tinder notifications from November 22nd. That was their adequate provocation. It didn't happen. We know for a fact it didn't happen. So now they stand up here and they say, adequate provocation. He was provoked with zero evidence. What the evidence was is that he chased her to the door of that apartment. Miss Paglino Brewer was the state's best witness, and I didn't even call her. I wish I would have. She nailed down our timeline. If you didn't already believe the timeline because she sent her mother her location at 2:18, Courtney knows it. Courtney looked at her phone at 2:11 in the morning after she heard a scream of a woman in, quote, distress. And here's the kicker. They want you to believe this fabricated story that there's no proof of. But how does Courtney help us? Because she attacked Jason. Again, we're uncommitted to this story now, but let's just go back to their opening statement. She attacked him with a wine bottle, and then subsequently, after he kicked her 98-pound body, according to opening statement, he kicked her 98-pound body to the floor where she fell on wine glasses. She then subsequently came at him with a wine glass and he stabbed her irrationally and very fast 60 times. Not true. Why? Because of Courtney and because of that phone location. Courtney was 2:11 a.m. The phone location to her mom was 2:18. 7 minutes. She screamed. Things happened. She was able to know she was in enough danger that she needed to send her mother her location. It wasn't fast. It wasn't fast at all, and we know that. 2:11 is 7 minutes from 2:18. It wasn't fast. She knew she was in danger. She tried to get out of the door, and Courtney told you that she heard a door slam. Jasmine knew she was in trouble. She had time to use her phone before he started killing her. Made up story. He kicked her. He kicked 98-pound Jasmine Pace, and then he ran away. But he couldn't get the bathroom door closed because of a bath mat. Couldn't close the door on 98-pound Jasmine Pace. So he had to run in his bathroom. He had to run to his bedroom. Jasmine's right there coming at him with this broken glass. In closing, they don't want to talk about the story that they committed to, because the story they committed to was that he killed her in the bedroom. And he gets, quote, and he gets back into his bedroom, and Jasmine's right there, coming at him with this broken glass. Jason sees the knife, and he reacts, and he stabs. Okay, we got two problems there. First of all, his own expert, who I wish I would have called, good expert, says that there's something that happened in the bathroom. There is blood spatter on the wall in the bathroom. Like General Moyle showed you, there is blood in the grout in the bathroom. We know she was moved. Why do we know she was moved? Because Dr. Cogswell testified that on the ground in the bedroom where you see all of the blood, which was almost all of the blood that was in her body, because he was only able to get a small vial of blood because it had all leaked out on the carpet, that for that blood to be on the carpet, she had to be laying on her wound side. That's what he said. Because if she was not on her wound side, the blood would have soaked down to the other side of her body, and the medical examiner would have been able to see that. He said she was wound side down. We know she was moved. We know she was moved, and we know there wasn't enough room right there to just simply flip her over. She was killed. The stabbing began in the bathroom, and then he drug her into the bedroom where he put her on her side with the wound so she could bleed out. We know that. What else is the problem with this? Jason sees the knife and he reacts and he stabs. She's coming after him. He sees the knife and he stabs. The problem is, without question, over and over again, including in writing, our medical examiner says her wounds match her fetal position. It is not true. Trying to confuse you. Trying to throw everything at the wall and hope that it sticks. Really, the worst part of the opening statement is he's scared for what his future entails. But more importantly, the shame that he's going to bring on his family, the shame that comes with everything that he's being accused of today. Manipulative. Selfish. He's scared for what his future entails. He's so scared that he texts on Tinder Victoria at 9:52 with some corny pickup line. He's so scared for his future that he's playing video games with his friends later that day. Don't worry about Jasmine Pace, who's dead in your apartment the entire day until 6 p.m. when you take her to Suck Creek Road. Keep in mind, when he Tinder messages Victoria, Jasmine is dead in his apartment. Uncontested facts. Is this the mindset of someone that just irrationally stabbed a girl 60 times? No. And then he lies over and over and over again. And this is something that General Moyle didn't mention. He lies to Katrina Pace on the phone. He says he hadn't seen her since Saturday. A lie. Then he gets to his parents' house in Nolensville, and he's trying to come up with a story. Not the story you heard Monday, but he's trying to come up with a story. It says, the last time I saw her was the 18th of November. The other note, the other sticky note on the desk, says the last time I saw her was the 19th. Trying to get his facts right. He knows he's being looked for. He knows law enforcement's trying to contact him. Why? Because he's got Zach Crawford's number written on a Post-it note. Does he ever say, hey, I killed her because she came at me with a wine bottle? No. He's got Zach Crawford's number written on the Post-it note. He's scared for what his future entails. I'm going to ask y'all to do something for me. It's been a long week. I'm only going to have a couple more requests. When you think about this trial in 10 or 15 years, you tell somebody about the jury that you had to serve on in Hamilton County. You tell them about the case. I don't want you to remember this case as the case of State of Tennessee versus Jason Chen. The trial of Jason Chen. I don't want you to remember it with the suitcase that the girl left on the side of the road. I want you to remember this trial as the trial for Jasmine Pace. Because we talk a whole lot about criminal defendants. You've heard the name Jason Chen a whole lot since we started jury selection last week. Victims matter. Jasmine Pace is not just some girl listed in an autopsy report. She is not the photos that you have seen. Don't minimize her to a name on an indictment. She is a person. She had family that loved her, that you've heard from this week. She was a friend. She was a granddaughter. Please don't minimize this trial to the trial for him. I'm going to ask that you take all this information, all the notes you've made this week, all of the closing argument information, you're instructed to go back there and begin with first-degree premeditated murder. Go back there together and find him guilty. Please. Thank you, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, come to the part of the trial where we will select our 4 alternates at this point. You may be disappointed, you may be relieved, but if you are an alternate, you're not off the hook yet. You'll be kept separate from the other jurors in case something happens to the 12 that go back. We're not sure how long the deliberations will take, but you will still remain part of an essential part of making sure that this trial continues until we get final verdicts. Our first alternate will be Otis Anderson, juror number 2. You can't talk about the case among yourselves. You'll be kept in a separate room for now, and we'll let you know if you're needed. At this point, you need to go to excuse you. Get your belongings from the jury room. The deputies will take you to another room where you can kept. Yeah, whenever they're out of jury, just let me know.
I gotta get one back in here.
Cool.
No, man.
Let me know when they'll get through. While we're waiting, jurors, you are the final 12 that will be deciding this case at this point. 4 things I'll tell you. If you have any questions when you get back there about the facts, you are the judges of the facts. If you have any questions about the law, they're probably in these jury instructions. So reread the jury instructions if you can to find an answer. If you still have a question, just write it down, knock on the door, and get it and talk about it, and try to see if we can get an answer for you. And the final thing is that the deputies will show you where the light switch is, turn the light on if and when you reach a verdict. of the jury, you should enter upon the consideration of this case with due regard to the seriousness of the questions submitted to you for your determination, and you should strive to free your mind of all bias one way or the other. You can have no prejudice or sympathy or allow anything but the law and the evidence to have any influence upon your verdict. You must render your verdict with absolute fairness and impartiality. Look to all the facts and circumstances and the proof before you. Make and report to the court such verdict as you think truth and justice require. You may now retire to the jury room for your deliberation.